r/ask Reddit. What was the best moment you've seen where the real world hit a spoiled rich kid? I grew up with rich kids and still keep in touch with a few of them. One guy's father owned the most prestigious law firm in town. He said his life changed the moment he called his father from jail. The second time it happened, his father said, "Well, sorry to hear you got arrested. Good luck," then hung up. He said getting locked back into his cell was the singular moment that completely turned his life around. I knew this rich kid from high school that went off to college and partied every single night. His parents found out that he was failing basically all of his classes, so they secretly drove up early one Saturday morning with a spare set of keys to the car they had bought him and just drove off with the car. Rich guy in our college dorm thought he was untouchable cause his dad was some NFL player from the 90s and had not blown all his money yet. He would get freshman girls blackout drunk and then film himself having sex with them and then show all his buddies the next day or so. Well, one buddy was not as close as he thought and went to the RA, who then went to campus police and then real police. It was a fun night watching the parking lot fill up with the bored cops on duty that night and haul his ass out of the dorms while they went and gathered his evidence. What happened to him afterwards? Did he return to school? Never saw him after that night. This took place near the end of the week, Thursday or Friday, cause I remember going to class on Monday and his dorm was empty and being cleaned by the housekeeping staff. That one Instagram model who got caught on video talking shit to a security guard at VidCon. Not only did the guard stand his ground and not let him in, because he wasn't famous enough to be given a pass and too rich to just buy one, but once the internet saw the video, the guard ended up with more followers than the kid. You're irrelevant. Classmate in college failed his course. Partied for a year with daddy's money. Never studied. Ever. Thing is, inheriting his father's construction company, 2 quarries, a fleet of trucks and equipment, depended on him manning up and passing the class. All he had to do was learn the basics of mechanical diagnostic and repair, and be set for life. I had a roommate my freshman year of college that came from an incredibly rich oil family from the Middle East. I remember him having the hardest time adjusting to not having someone else prepare him food. I remember waking up one morning and going to the kitchen and seeing him try to eat eggs and toast he had just prepared himself. He asked me how I normally prepare fried eggs because his tasted really crunchy. Turns out he had just cracked the egg hole into the pan and prepared it shell and all. I couldn't stop laughing but felt really bad for the dude. At least he tried. Administration and faculty at a university refused a substantial offer of endowment money from a couple that wanted their son enrolled as an art major. Their son couldn't meet the minimum scholastic entrance requirements and he had little aptitude for art. Still, with their millions, he thought money would buy his way to an easy degree as an art major. He was dumbfounded to receive a notice of non-admittance. Cries in German. I knew a guy in high school who bragged that he didn't have to pay attention in school because, get this, his grandfather was a vice president of the corporation that supplied the cardboard for cereal boxes for General Mills. Real gravy train, you know. Last I checked, since deleted Facebook he was still working at Best Buy 5 years after high school. Same job he had in high school. I don't think my father, the inventor of toaster strudel, would be too pleased with this. My best moment was when I got hired by a pair of Woodside CA parents to transition their horrible 18-year-old into the realities of real life, something that evaded both of them. My first action was to take away his Platinum, Limitless, credit cards. He threw a tantrum that lasted several days. Where am I going to get money? Get a job. My parents will fire you. They didn't. When he realized that boundaries and budgets had been set in stone, and that he not only had to pay the bills, the rent, but taxes too, he headed straight to college to wait out the next 4 years. He is still a little jerk, but at least he has a job and an education now. Probably on the BBC yesterday when Prince Andrew got the shit kicked out of him for an hour about his association with Epstein. Epstein's the guy who didn't kill himself, right? Ooh, I know this one. One of my college roommates told his parents the trip we were planning, that they were paying for, was $400 more expensive than it was so he could buy a really nice bong. In addition, they basically paid for everything he wanted. He had their credit card and ordered food on it at least once daily. He also would make $50 purchases off the card pretty regularly. Long story short, they found out he lied about the cost of the trip. For whatever reason they still paid and let him go, but after the trip he could not use their card anymore. This dude acted like he lived the hardest life of all time afterwards, but eventually sucked it up. He actually acts way less entitled now. It ended up having a lasting positive effect for him, even though he wouldn't admit it. While working in a casino here in Las Vegas, a herd of girls came to my window, and one proceeded to tell me about a great birthday party itinerary that her dad had paid for her 18th birthday, with no adult in the party, just a bunch of teenage girls, out in Vegas, where none of them could do anything because none of them were 21. I couldn't even check them into their reservation. They start yelling and screaming at me. I calmly call security, and security tells them they can either go play in the arcade or leave and try to find a hotel off the strip that will take them and W out being 21. The anger turns to tears. The security guard is unmoved. That's their parents' fault. A stupid 18th birthday gift. No joke here. Back in high school, 90s, this kid got a brand new Chevy Camaro. I had an old ass 80s Pontiac Phoenix that had the straight six. It was by far not a racing car, but this tool was just looking to brag at what he got compared to the busted cars we got. About 2 days later, while we were waiting at a stoplight, this idiot tries to race us as I am in my car and I pull up with my friends. He starts by revving it really loud and tries to do a burnout. Mind you, the light was red and the roads were not wet, so he managed to get a tiny burnout going. Some smoke and whatnot. When his tires did catch traction, he went barreling into the intersection and smashed the car of the wife of one of the very few cops in my small city. Needless to say, that didn't work out for him very well. At the start of this I thought you were just explaining the plot of Tokyo Drift with slightly different cars. Don't know if I'm happy you weren't bamboozling at a Starbucks and she thought apparently people gave her parents free drinks and such for her all these years. Like the cashier told her the total and she said, "Wait, I don't get it for free." She never realized her parents swiping their cards all those years was paying for her things, I guess. To be fair, my mom, who did not have wealthy parents, thought the same thing when she and her sister snuck off to DQ for ice cream. She was also 5. A kid from my high school came from a well-known family that was very involved in politics. He slacked off in school and was mostly a condescending ass for years. After graduation, he didn't really do anything, but eventually decided to run for office as he had the same name as his father. He won easily, because people didn't realize it was the kid. As a state rep, he posted on Facebook about enjoying his women battered rather than plain and asking to join the Black Caucus because he liked hip hop. He also dropped a loaded gun on the floor in the middle of a session after fighting for the right to carry a gun in the state house as a responsible gun owner. He kept getting elected despite these issues because his family was well connected and he had a dedicated following from some political groups. After 6 years in office, he gets busted for soliciting sex from a minor over the internet. When they arrest him for that, they also discover he's been dealing drugs. The worst part is that his family is actually super nice and genuinely made the community a better place. But now they have to deal with all the issues from him. He was an apple that fell very far from the tree, comma. When I was a teenager, my sister and I saw through our windows that there were 2 guys getting into her car. We ran downstairs as fast as possible and caught them in the act. One managed to run away but the other one froze and didn't run away. He couldn't have been much older than me. My sister called the cops and the kid kept looking at us and trying to find a way to escape. My sister said, "Run if you want. My brother will catch you." The cops came and so did his parents. His mom drove a ducking amazing car and the lady looked furious and sad. She was dressed really nice and looked like she was pretty successful. As soon as she got out she began yelling, "Why? We give you everything. You have everything. Why would you try and steal? Don't we give you enough?" The kid just seemed to shrink and get smaller. I don't get it. Ducking a hole. I hope he turned his life around and began to be around better people. Freshman year of college. The guy across the hall from me is a spoiled rich kid from a big southern city. Old money clearly coming out his ass. A couple weeks into the second semester, he and a buddy found a checkbook on the sidewalk. Stupid duckers decided to write themselves a check and cash it in the bank that the account is in. The teller immediately called the cops and they both got arrested. We talked the night he got arrested and he laughed and said his dad would take care of it and everything would be fine. That weekend we met his dad as they moved everything out of the dorms since his dumbass got expelled. Guess daddy didn't take care of it. Nothing too serious. But I taught at an international school in Africa and we would take the high school students camping 1 week out of the year. Many of these kids are not used to camping at all and have never even taken public transport. They have full-time drivers bring them to school and pick them up. Some of them are from very wealthy and politically connected families. Having to set up tents and get dirty, not be able to shower every day, and sleep on hard ground is new to them. Some of them actually love it, but others are sad pathetic wretches the entire week. I went to a very rich, predominantly white Catholic high school. One moment I remember was the wind absolutely being taken out of a girl's sails when I explained to her why our school dominated the area's skiing, golf, and equestrian competitions, but never anything else. For a lot of kids in that school, the moment they learned they were rich was the moment they learned that most girls don't have their own horses growing up. Kid I knew won a cool million off a scratch ticket when he was 19. Acted like a big shot, arrogantly buying rounds of drinks for entire bars. Didn't do shit for 20 years. Then got the last check, alcoholic. No savings, no assets, no skills. He's now in and out of hospitals for alcohol poisoning and mental breakdowns. Lost his paper hat job, his GF, everything. TBF, if I had $1 million handed to me at 19 I'd probably be dead. I knew one who apparently couldn't fathom how people live on a budget. We used to hang out a lot at her insistence, but she liked to eat at expensive places, whereas I'd have no issue having my meals somewhere cheaper. However, she kept pouting and insisting I stay. I said I couldn't unless she wanted to spot me. She didn't. I then walked her through the math and showed her that the cost of my meals with her, every day, totaled my entire wage for the month. She didn't stop pouting, but from then on I could eat by myself in peace. Reminds me of a friend that we brought traveling Europe with another buddy. We had a strict budget and he did not. It almost ruined our friendship with him calling us cheap. We were like, dude, we literally can't afford to eat at the places you want to eat. He had absolutely no idea and thought it was just a choice on our end. One of my college roommates was very rich growing up. I didn't realize just how rich until I had to explain to her what a coupon was in very extensive detail. On multiple occasions she bragged that she wasn't even interested in her major, philosophy, or college in general, but she was at uni because her parents were requiring her to get a degree, any degree, in order to get access to her trust fund. I don't remember ever seeing her go to class and she eventually got expelled sophomore year over academic dishonesty. I guess this was the last straw for her parents because they cut her off pretty soon after that. This actually served as a wake-up call. She somehow managed to get a public health degree at a different school in spite of the academic dishonesty listed on her transcript. She's doing pretty well for herself these days. We've kept in touch and last we talked she was considering grad school. Rich scummy injury lawyer's kid was in my class in HS. Goes to college, mid-sized school in the Midwest, and gets blasted drunk. Parents bought him and his friends alcohol since freshman year, so nothing new, and Ra says he has to write him up for alcohol in the dorms. Punches 2 Ras, then gets cops called on him and knocks a cop's tooth out. Long story short, his parents have to drive back 6-7 hours after one day to get him and he's not even allowed to leave the state until his hearing. Last I heard he's working at a fast food establishment. Here's a switch. Highly successful local doctor/politician expects son to attend medical school and become doctor. Son opts out. Gets job with new company called Costco, pumping gas. He's been with that company ever since. Just his regular pay raises and bonus checks give him a good life. He just didn't want the high stress life his dad had. There was a kid in my school class who was a trust fund baby and he acted like it. He was picking on people one day, just talking unnecessary shit, and he called a girl a cow. She was overweight. He then got punched by a special education kid in class. And then when he contemplated retaliating against the special education kid, he then got punched by another student who was not special needs. He did not contemplating punching him. About 10 years ago I was having a pint with a friend of mine. His family shit gold, I swear. I mentioned I was struggling with rent and bills while in college and he just said, "Get your mum to pay for it then, mate. She's disabled and we've never had real money." He instantly realized what he said and did feel bad about it. I think it was the first time he really understood that not everyone has their parents to lean on financially. Spoiled rich kid showed up to school in a $325,000 sports car. He was showing off, lost control of the car, and drove it through a brick wall and totaled it. Local business owner puts son through college and more. When kid graduates with multiple degrees, dad decides to retire and turn over business to son. Son brings college cronies on board, has management all wear white cowboy hats and drive white pickups, begins revamping business. Dad comes out of retirement pronto, gets rid of son and cronies. Years later bankrolls son's run for state rep. The son lost. Dad dies and leaves business to daughter. There's this kid that lives in a house across the street from mine. It's a pretty large place. House is made of concrete, high ceilings, pool in the back, etc. Over the years, my brother and I have hung out with him a handful of times. But it's not so fun to hang out with a kid that's barely 11 when you're 14. His mom is fairly wealthy, upper middle class. She's an engineer and makes quite a bit of money, so he benefited from this by being able to spend a majority of his free time staying inside playing video games when he wasn't at school. He didn't want to pursue a career, he just wanted to lounge around all day. Long story short, he crashed the car that his mom gave him. His mom refused to buy him another one, and instead used that situation to try and motivate him to get off his ass and work. She sent him off to vocational school. Since he doesn't want to go to college, we'll see how that goes. Knew a rich kid whose parents bought a car for and he treated it like absolute garbage, purposely driving it really hard and generally abusing it, confident in the notion that his parents would buy him the one he wanted after he destroyed the one they got him. Well, they didn't buy him another one, ever. He rode the city bus and bummed rides off of friends after that. He was the most entitled ducker I'd ever met. If he was over at your house, he would just help himself to whatever was in the fridge like it was some sort of paid buffet. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.